On the afternoon of June 6, 1980, a 56-year-old man named Zigmund Ziggy Adamski was having a late lunch with his wife, Lottie, and his cousin at his home in the English village of Tingley. It was a stressful day, as his goddaughter's wedding was the next day. Ziggy was very close to her, as he and his wife couldn't have children, and he was set to walk her down the aisle. He was nervous about his responsibilities and a speech he had to give. Adding to the tension, Ziggy had gotten into a fight with his cousin earlier, feeling he had been disrespectful to his goddaughter. During the tense meal, Ziggy realized he had forgotten to buy potatoes at the store. He abruptly decided to go get them, even though it was too late to cook them for the meal. It's possible he just wanted to get away from the stress for a moment. He told his wife and cousin he was going, grabbed some cash, and headed out the door. The village of Tingley was a very safe place. Ziggy and Lottie had settled there after fleeing Poland during World War II, where both had been held prisoner. Ziggy had worked as a coal miner for 27 years, while Lottie, who had multiple sclerosis, was confined to a wheelchair. They had a happy and stable life in the town. The shop was only about 3 blocks away, a trip that should have taken only a few minutes. When Ziggy didn't return after 30 minutes, Lottie became very concerned. It was highly uncharacteristic of him, as he was an incredibly methodical and reliable person. Worried he might have collapsed due to lung issues from his mining job, she sent the cousin to the store to check on him. At the shop, the owner confirmed that Ziggy had been in about 25 minutes earlier. He had bought a bag of potatoes and seemed totally normal as he left, walking back in the direction of his home. The cousin jogged back, looking for Ziggy along the 3-block path, but saw no sign of him. After returning to the house, he and Lottie searched the neighborhood and asked neighbors, but no one had seen him. Lottie eventually called the police, but they were not inclined to launch a major investigation for a man missing for only a few hours with no sign of foul play. After learning about the stressors in Ziggy's life, his recent denial for early retirement, the wedding stress, the fight with his cousin, and caring for his wife, the police wondered if he had simply walked away to abandon his family. The police advised Lottie to wait, suggesting Ziggy would surely return for his goddaughter's wedding the next day. Lottie and the cousin waited all night, but Ziggy did not come back. He did not show up for the wedding, not even to walk his goddaughter down the aisle. After the wedding, a frantic Lottie called the police again, local hospitals, and everyone she knew, certain something terrible had happened. Despite a wider search, no trace of Ziggy was found. 5 days later, on the morning of June 11, a man named Trevor Parker arrived at his father's coal yard in the town of Todmorden, 25 miles away from Tingley. He surveyed the yard, noting everything was wet from an early morning storm, and went into his office to work. He left for a long lunch break at a pub and returned around 3:45 p.m. When Trevor drove back through the gates, everything looked the same, except for a dark object on top of one of the 12-foot-high coal piles. He hadn't noticed it that morning. Walking closer, he realized it was a person. Assuming it was one of the local homeless individuals who sometimes wandered in from the nearby railroad tracks, he went back to his office and called for an ambulance. The ambulance arrived without sirens, expecting a routine call. As the medics walked toward the pile, Trevor noticed the person was wearing very nice, tailored pants. One of the medics climbed the pile to rouse the person. As he did, his expression suddenly changed from routine to horrified. He scrambled back down the pile, telling his partner to call the police immediately. Officer Alan Godfrey and his partner arrived minutes later. The medic, still visibly shaken, told Godfrey that something was terribly wrong with the person on the pile. Godfrey climbed up the coal himself and found a man lying on his stomach, wearing a beautiful 3-piece brown suit. Godfrey immediately noticed that there was no coal soot on the suit at all, even though Godfrey himself was covered in it from the short climb. The man's hair was also bizarre, looking as if it had been crudely chopped with dull scissors. On the back of his neck, there was a deep bleeding wound, but it was covered in a strange green jelly-like substance. As strange as this was, it didn't explain the medic's terror. Godfrey rolled the man over onto his back and immediately understood. The man's face was contorted in a frozen look of absolute abject terror. His jaw was open so wide it looked dislocated, his teeth were bared, and his eyes were bulging. Godfrey realized this was a dead person, and whatever had happened to him must have been unbelievably terrifying. The body was soon identified as Ziggy Adamski. This discovery only deepened the mystery. Todmorden was 25 miles from Ziggy's home, and he had no known connections to the town. He had left on foot, so it was unknown how he got there. Furthermore, the coal yard was a wide-open lot, visible from all sides, yet no one, not the employees, truck drivers, or people on the passing trains, saw him arrive. It was as if he had just appeared on top of the pile. The suit he was wearing was not his, and it was put on incorrectly, with the buttons misaligned and no undershirt. This, combined with the crude haircut, suggested someone unfamiliar with human clothing had dressed him. The green jelly on his neck wound could not be identified by toxicologists, despite extensive tests. The autopsy determined Ziggy had died that same day, meaning he had been alive for the 5 days he was missing. He had been eating and drinking regularly. The cause of death was determined to be a heart attack, but the coroner couldn't explain what triggered it. He also found small acid burns on the back of Ziggy's neck, but no other signs of a struggle. The case was officially closed, ruled as death by natural causes. To this day, the case remains unsolved. It has become famous as a potential case of alien abduction. This theory suggests Ziggy was taken, experimented on, explaining the wound, acid burns, and green jelly, dressed incorrectly by his captors, and then dropped from above onto the coal pile, which would explain the lack of soot. Furthering this theory, Officer Alan Godfrey, one of the policemen who found the body, claimed to have seen a UFO himself just weeks after the incident.